Another year, another PAX, the biggest tabletop convention, at least in my neck of the woods, taking place in actually sunny Philadelphia this year. Well, it was cold on the first day, but it got better. And this time, I actually got a little behind-the-scenes action by getting in on Setup Thursday. I got to talk with a few vendors to ask them about their experience, and all of them agreed that the most important thing is to secure your freight. There were a number of people who had issues getting their stock to the actual show, which is, the reason you're there to begin with. If you are not transporting your freight yourself, you want to make sure that wherever you are has a guarantee on accepting the shipment. Now, there was a way to have your pallet sent to the show directly, but it apparently wasn't viable for everybody. One particularly serious nightmare that hit a vendor was that the Airbnb that they were staying at had rejected all of their freight, leaving them on the verge of having nothing to sell and wasting a ton of time and money. Yet another reason why I never use Airbnb, but it's an important lesson about security regardless. It's a good thing to check on before going into anything really, and even then, good backup strategies, you should have the demo kits in your own luggage, and ideally brought a tablet with you so that even if your freight does not arrive, people can still order online. Maybe give them a shipping discount or something for the trouble. After helping a few booths set up, I had dinner at my favorite place and was ready to come back the next day. So, Friday allowed me a chance to see what the new trends had taken over the game space this year. There were a lot of people representing their games at the convention, though notable absences include Pokemon and WizKids. I mean, I'm not surprised WizKids didn't show with how badly they've been managing themselves the past couple of years. But Pokemon's absence was a genuine shock, as their booth always had this sort of fun whimsy to it. Instead, there was a number of new faces at the event. Universes was here doing demo games along with a new Star Trek Lower Decks set. I've covered Universes before, back when it was still called UFS and was basically running just on My Hero Academia. Glad to see they're finally expanding again, though I really wish they would settle on a final card design. Please? Lorcana was here with their usual overinflated ego. Star Wars Unlimited was also present, with booster drafts being done at cost for booster packs, which is pretty nice. Altered also had a booth, gearing up for their next set that releases in January. And then, of course, there was Magic. Along with their usual single booster freebie events, which didn't even require lands this time as they just gave you one of their jumpstart packs, they were making a big hullabaloo about their newcomer offer. If you were at PAX and had somehow never played Magic before, Wizards had your back with a free pair of half decks full of old, worthless cards that were already out of rotation. I mean, that's weird, right? It's kind of mean on the back end. I mean, if anybody tries out the game and gets excited to play, so excited that they take their cards to a standard event only to be told that they can't use the cards that they got, that's a deflating experience that might cause people to turn away from a new hobby already famous for high levels of burnout. I mean, I'm sure there's some sort of excuse for this, but this event was labeled as a Foundations event. Foundations being Magic's attempt at a timeless core set. Everywhere you looked, it was Foundations, Foundations, Foundations. So when I opened these decks, I was expecting, Foundations? Which I don't think was an unfair expectation. I mean, it's all over the additional literature I was handed, so where's the beef? You know what, let's just head over to the Expo Hall. So in addition to the games I mentioned before, there were a number of new and aspiring projects who had come to PAX this year. Super Show was here with a 10th anniversary starter set, a steal for their discount sale price of $30, considering that it has 4 decks inside of it, basically the equivalent of their 2 original starter boxes, and thanks to the family set I got last year, I also own the Tag Team Arena deck, meaning I can bring out the most of this box. Featuring El Super Hombre, Snake Pit, Chamomile, who's kinda bad though, not gonna lie, and Sage, but by far the most terrifying participant of all, Los Instrucciones! They also let me take a peek at their Super Lucha game, a version of Super Show done in cooperation with the folks behind the classic kids show Mucha Lucha. It even has a single-player mode against rudos, or heel wrestlers. You know, kinda like Lucha Racha. I wonder if I can get Lucha Racha drawn in the Mucha Lucha style someday. There was Goodnak, which is a tactical expandable card game, which, I don't know. It is a tactical game that keeps its footprint small and doesn't use any tokens, good job dodging TTS syndrome, but I can't help but notice a few problems. For example, if your opponent gets to the space in front of your deck, you aren't allowed to draw cards anymore. What you would have drawn gets sent straight to the discard pile instead, which I can see turning into a death spiral. And oh yeah, it's a life decking game. Also, everybody I saw who tried out the game got confused by how the rock, paper, scissors mechanics of the basic units worked, and there are a number of heroic units that can ignore this system altogether, meaning they can only trade with another level 3 unit, and I sure hope you haven't used all of those up. And deck building seemed a bit too limited for my taste, where you have to have exact numbers of every card at every level, half of which must be basic units limited to basically choosing your ratio of rock, paper, and/or scissors. I don't know, I feel if there was a bit more of a flexible system where you could nudge how many cards of each type you were allowed, like dropping a hero for an additional spell or something, it might allow for more expression. I can see people having fun with it, but I don't see it taking a serious role in the space. Also there promoting their upcoming Kickstarter was this game Obscurids, a TCG all about cryptids.
I can't do this! Not again!
Oh well, at least if the initial quality of the artwork is any indication, we might be getting something taken more seriously. And it's apparently not just a Pokemon alike like MetaZoo is trying to be. Just be sure to treat your artists right, okay? Japanime was there promoting their recently kickstarted game Oshi Push, made with VTuber agency Phase Connect, a game that was oddly enough kickstarted long before HoloLive revealed their own trading card game. I mean, I guess VTuber games were only a matter of time. I was only able to grab a few sample cards as the release comes later, but it will have stiff competition from HoloLive TCG for sure, assuming the latter gets an English release in a timely fashion. Old friends Gem Blenders and Solus Games were there. This time, Solus was promoting their slightly late-shipped Massiverse crossover, Massiverse being a popular Image comic book series, with the new twist being the addition of passive cards that characters start the game with. And then on Saturday, I got sick. Which I guess is fine, Saturday is the worst day to be there anyway. Well, at least I was able to spend some of my sick leave playing A Gentle Rain by The Incredible Dream, a sort of single-player domino solitaire game, and Murder at the Atelier, a one-shot by Solus Games. But it is while I was in this fitful delirium, wondering why nobody's invented deodorant wipes that you can pull out of a canister like disinfecting wipes to easily hand out at conventions, that I was approached by a mysterious entity. Kodak! Kodak!
Want to look at our Granblue Fantasy Tactics game?
Sure, though, did you have to send it to me in this bag? People are looking at me funny. So after my personal favorite miniature tactics game Crossmaster bit the dust, I've been looking for a decent sort of replacement for it, and after the monster disappointment that was Dungeons & Dragons Onslaught, I was beginning to lose hope. But this year, I actually saw a lot of tactical miniatures games eager to swoop in where WizKids has abandoned the field. Not you, your miniature games suck. So I'll admit the only thing that I knew about Granblue Fantasy going in was that it has tiny cow women. Then again, I knew even less about Wakfu when I picked up Crossmaster, so go figure. So Granblue Fantasy Tactics is a game that uses acrylic standees played on a tactical board. Interestingly, there are no die rolls. Instead, all actions are performed by discarding a card from your hand and performing 2 compatible actions, gaining a bonus to those actions based on the icons of the card discarded. You can also choose to perform the actions shown on the card if you play it on the matching character. Each character can only activate once in a round, but you also get a command card, which lets you choose a unit to activate a second time each round. The game comes with a starter box that includes everything 2 players need for a trial run of the game, priced at Holy cow! Now that's what I call a decent entry price for a miniatures game. See this? See this, everybody? This is how you sell a starter pack. A small set where people can get a taste and then be interested in getting more. It even has elevated terrain pieces and stuff. And these even nest together where you can stash the tokens and junk. Come to think of it, I wonder if anybody else has ever thought of nestable combat terrain before. Now, the idea is that this is a trial set where players can play the game for cheap to see if they like it, and can be easily filled out with 4 of these single character booster packs which sell for just... yeah, that's pretty good. And buying an entire booster box gets you the entire collection of characters, which can actually all be stashed inside the extra cavity of the starter box. Might be nice if these came with stickers so I could mark the boxes like the ones inside the starter set, and... oh, that's the box topper. Okay then. But yeah, you have enough to support a full 4x4 2-player experience in this game for just $4 more than one lousy Onslaught team. And the full plunge of 20 characters is barely 12 over the Onslaught base box. That said, I actually don't mind the use of acrylic standees in place of actual figures, since it likely saves on cost on what is pretty much a 2D styled game anyway. Then again, some of these standees can get a tad extravagant. Have fun putting a character next to this guy. There actually seemed to be a trend towards making more efficient and aggressively priced miniatures games after the excesses of the past couple of years that explain why WizKids has their head hung so low right now. Several have made their miniatures into cardboard figures and put the premium ones behind STL files tied to the sale of the game, and I will be honest, I would rather have a game that is inexpensive enough for me to try over a game with super detailed painted minis any day. I get the desire to make and sell premium products, but you have to hook people into your game before you can accomplish that. Like the obvious observation about video games, the Nintendo Switch is way less powerful than the other consoles on the market, but it also costs half as much, in case you didn't get why it's so popular. Although, as I returned to my delusions, out came Brother Ming Games, who was like, Dude, seriously? You're gonna review Granblue Fantasy even after they gave it to you in a bag that makes people look at you funny? Unacceptable. Review React 2. React is a game of competitive arting, where a pair of superpowered creators vie to erect their masterpiece at a new installation, despite the whims of the artists they are up against. The goal in this game is to control the space and damage your opponent 3 times, and characters each use a different medium to try to accomplish that. Most characters call upon helpers to surround their opponents. One lays traps instead, and yet another uses dice. Like, instead of a deck. Gotta admit, I kinda dig how the boxes, when assembled, make a mosaic with an empty spot for the 9th character that you can buy later. It also includes a pout token. It doesn't actually do anything for the game, but I love it. Base game with cardboard tokens is $60. Not bad, especially for an indie project. I was also given the acrylic standee upgrade kit, which will run you an extra 40 more. And the 9th character, DJ, who has its acrylic standees right out of the gate, comes to a total that is still less than a copy of Dungeons & Dragons Onslaught. Why is this so hard for you, WizKids? So there were other miniature games as well, but these are the ones I really got to look at. I'd say look at Granblue if you want an inexpensive symmetrical tactics game with a pretty good amount of cruft, and React if you want something new that toys around with spatial control and asymmetrical gameplay. And finally, it's time for Sunday Arts and Crafts. This time around, my building and painting activities were different from last year. For building, we had Folded Space, who had a sample of their card and token trays for assembly. You've probably seen Folded Space on my channel before on the LCG video, where I mock Fantasy Flight for their terrible board game inserts. Folded Space makes replacement organizers for board games, many of which are game-specific, which is a godsend for complicated games like Gloomhaven or Arkham Horror. They go together pretty easily with normal glue and can even be used as trays even after the game is opened. They handed me a dice tower to build later. As for my painting activity, this year it was Battletech. I, of course, delivered a self-inflicted injury by trying to paint with yellow, which is always a pain, especially on black, and then made it worse by trying to liquid talent it with the brown they had. It did not go well.
They'll never expect us to approach from the lake of poo water. It's foolproof.
Sadly, me being sick on Saturday means that I missed out on a lot of great stuff. I didn't manage to get into any tournaments or TTRPGs because, well, those were my Saturday activities. But anyway, I know what you're here for. You want to know what I pulled out of the trash. And of course, we have the usual pack chaff, promo cards, collectible bags, card storage, posters, complete boxed product, the huge. And hey Pax, think we could establish a location for people to put unwanted chaff product rather than just tossing it into the trash cans? I mean, it's just a waste, you know? I imagine these poor cards would love a warm home to go to. But, as usual, the most interesting thing I yanked was the product sample box from a manufacturer, in this case, Boda Games, where they also gave me this thing. And I gotta say, of all of the production samples, these are probably the most interesting I have ever received. I mean, I've gotten promotional packs that show off the board game products a company can make as a deck of cards, but a board game manufacturer presenting their abilities in the form of an actual playable board game? The Boda Games sample box, The Manufacturing Race, sees two players compete to be the ones to complete the most orders, building your manufacturing company to handle more demanding clients and earn better profits. The game is designed as a sampler of what Boda can produce, making use of dice, tokens, cards, and meeples in this sort of light Euro game, contained in a custom-made box and insert. The double-layer punch card board that perfectly fits the meeple's feet is a nice touch as well. And can I just say again, making it a cohesive game rather than just a sampler box adds to the charm of possibility. It is still a sampler, however, and so it includes additional items inside like chips, badges, and a hedgehog? Sonic the Hedgehog! I also grabbed this card sampler. Now, card samplers like this are a dime a dozen, and I already own several, but what makes these different is that they feature detailed instructions on how to prepare your game files for manufacture? Holy cow again! Do you know how long I've been looking for information like this? Please, Boda Games, more! Oh hey, they have a YouTube channel. I also found this red box that seems like it used to contain some pretty cool stuff, and Boda Games, if you're watching, gimme. And so, another year, another PAX Unplugged. I didn't get to do as much as I had hoped, but it was fun rubbing elbows with a bunch of game designers, and I look forward to coming back again next year. Until next time, that was PAX Unplugged 2024, and this is Kodak signing off.